Welcome. Today we're going to pull on a single thread to unravel the story of one of humanity's most transformative, and yet most overlooked inventions. It's a piece of tech that quite literally wove our entire world together. So, when I ask you that question, what pops into your head? For most of us, right, a few classic answers probably jump out. They're the heavy hitters of human history, the ones we all learn about in school.
Of course, you're going to think of the big ones: the wheel, fire, agriculture, writing. And look, don't get me wrong, they were all absolutely 100% world-changing, no doubt about it.
But what if I told you that another invention, something far older and way simpler than most of these, was the real catalyst? What if the key to unlocking civilization wasn't some complex machine or a grand idea, but just a simple piece of string? To find the beginning of this story, we have to go deep into the past. I'm talking way back to the Stone Age, a time when our ancestors' survival really depended on them finding creative solutions to some very tough, everyday problems. We're going back 30,000 years to the Upper Paleolithic. Now, just to put that in perspective, this is a time long before the first cities, way before the first farms. And it's right here that we find the earliest definitive proof of our ancestors taking fibers and making something totally new. Okay, so check this out. In a place called Dzudzuana Cave in modern-day Georgia, archaeologists found something absolutely incredible: microscopic fibers of wild flax. But here's the kicker. These weren't just random scraps. They had been intentionally twisted, spun, knotted, and get this, even dyed. This was not an accident. This was technology. This was the birth of textiles. And this discovery, it doesn't stand alone. When you look at the timeline, you see this slow, steady development. 40,000 years ago, you've got Neanderthals twisting fibers into cord. And then by 18,000 years ago, at a site in China called Zhoukoudian, we find these finely crafted bone needles, so small they could only be used with plant fiber thread, not leather strips. What does that tell you? It tells you they weren't just making rope for traps, they were sewing actual fitted clothing. So how did they do it? Well, the very first technique was just ingeniously simple: splicing. You just take strips of fiber, overlap the ends, and roll them together, a lot of the time on your thigh, to twist them into one continuous thread. Sure, it was a slow, manual process, but it gave humans a material that was stronger and way more versatile than any single fiber could ever be on its own. And for tens of thousands of years, this basic tech was good enough. But then, the agricultural revolution happened. As humans started to settle down, the demand for textiles just exploded. And that sparked a massive technological boom during the Neolithic period. This was the moment everything just accelerated. We went from slow, manual twisting to the spindle whorl, and from simple finger weaving to the first real looms. It was a complete revolution in production that solved the critical problem of scale: how to make more stuff faster. Let's look at that first key invention, the spindle whorl. They found these at sites like Xishan in China, dating back 7,000 years, and this tool is a total game changer. It's basically a small flywheel. You give it a good spin, and its momentum twists fibers into thread far faster and way more evenly than you could ever do by hand. It was really the first step in mechanizing thread production. So now you have all this new thread, right? You need a faster way to weave it. Enter the loin loom. Evidence for this was also found at that 7,000-year-old Hemudu site in China. And it is a brilliant piece of engineering that uses the weaver's own body to create the perfect tension. It allows them to systematically pass thread back and forth and create wide, consistent pieces of fabric for the very first time. This was the birth of the machine that would dominate cloth production for thousands of years. So, okay, we've seen the technological evolution. But the real story here, the thing that really matters, is the impact. This wasn't just about making better clothes. The ability to create fabric on a large scale fundamentally remade human society from the ground up. The consequences were massive, and they just cascaded through every aspect of life. You see a revolution in what people wore, you see the creation of the first long-distance trade networks, a complete reshaping of social structures, a brand new way to express art and identity, and even a new relationship with the natural world itself. So what was the real impact on the ground? Well, think about it. Weaving is a skilled, time-consuming job. So this led to the rise of specialized artisans for the very first time. Textiles became these incredibly valuable goods, creating wealth and fueling the first major trade networks. And you know what happens when some people accumulate a new form of wealth? It leads directly to social stratification, the beginnings of class structure. And here's where it gets really profound. This new technology may have fundamentally shifted power in society. In early societies, women were often the primary weavers, which means textile production was a huge source of their economic power. But as production scaled up and became the source of significant wealth, control over it shifted, and that contributed to these deep, deep changes in social and gender hierarchies. This also reveals just incredible ingenuity. I mean, it wasn't a one-size-fits-all technology. People adapted it to their local environment. So in China, they used gay root and reeds. In the Near East, it was flax. And at the famous site of Çatalhöyük in Turkey, analysis shows they made textiles from the inner bark of oak trees. It's a testament to this really deep, localized understanding of the natural world. So our journey has taken us from a few twisted fibers in a Paleolithic cave all the way to the complex looms that helped build the first cities. It's a story of innovation that is literally woven into the very fabric of our civilization. The legacy is just staggering when you stop and think about it. Before we had the wheel to move goods, we had woven bags to carry them and sails to catch the wind. Before we had writing to record our status, we had fine clothing to display it. This simple technology was the foundation that enabled so many of the other inventions we consider to be the great ones.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The greatest revolutions often start not with a bang, but with a quiet twist. If something as humble as a thread could have such a profound, world-changing impact, what are the seemingly simple, overlooked technologies of our own time that are quietly weaving the world of tomorrow?